This video is sponsored by Surfshark. The official narrative remains that Kathleen Kennedy is one of, if not the greatest producer of all time. Behind closed doors, however, fewer and fewer, even in Hollywood, actually believe that, because under her watchful eye, Lucasfilm continues to be ran into the ground. Which is the last thing Disney CEO Bob Iger needs right now, because in between Marvel, the animation department, and Disney Plus all falling apart, he has plenty of other fires of his own making to put out. Even so, in the last couple of weeks alone, a high-profile producer has sued Lucasfilm over wrongful termination. The news of Willow being cancelled leaking caused a backlash from the very same audience Disney has gone out of their way to cater to, and as if that wasn't bad enough, the next Star Wars movie planned for the big screen is already showing signs of being about to implode. If Kathleen Kennedy hopes to be renewed yet again, this is not the way to go about it. In this editorial then, I'll begin with going through the lawsuit and why it is so incredibly embarrassing for Disney and Lucasfilm, continue with the embarrassing backlash over the cancellation of Willow, and finally conclude with the latest Star Wars embarrassment waiting to happen. And I only say latest because there is a long line of such embarrassments. Another recent one is the viewership numbers for Season 3 of The Mandalorian, which clearly demonstrate that millions have abandoned what used to be the Star Wars lifeline. But looking at the totality of what Disney is putting out, it is no wonder people throw their hands in the air, cancel Disney Plus, and take to the high seas for their latest Star Wars or Marvel fix, which at this point many watch out of obligation only. But to be clear, neither Midnight's Edge nor our sponsors condone piracy, even if Phase 5 was off to a rough start. You see, not only is piracy wrong, you would be exposing yourself to endless spyware, tracking software and other malware out there on the high seas. And that's on top of all the data that is stolen from you during all of your regular browsing and sold to third parties. Have you noticed all the spam and scam emails you're getting? Well, they get your email from those third parties, that's how that happens. There is a fix for all of that though. To protect yourself, you need to protect your data, and a good way of doing that is through a VPN, such as the one delivered by this channel's sponsor, Surfshark. A VPN, or Virtual Private Network, is a privacy protection tool which guarantees instant online safety and encrypts all data sent via the internet, thereby protecting your data and you. But there's more. Surfshark allows you to bypass geo-blocking restrictions by changing the country you access the internet from, which gives some great advantages when it comes to streaming. For instance, you can access 15 different Netflix libraries, all with a different selection of movies and TV series simply by changing your virtual location. Which is easy, because Surfshark has servers in more than 100 countries around the world. Outside of the US, Star, the international version of Hulu, comes bundled with Disney Plus. If you're in the US and change your location to, say, the UK, well then you just might get Star too. That's pretty good, but it gets even better. If you type in the code MIDNIGHT when ordering, that triggers an exclusive offer of 83% off the normal list price, plus 3 extra months for free. Furthermore, Surfshark also offers a 30-day money-back guarantee, so there's no risk in trying it out. Do check out the link in the description below for further details and to order. Thanks to Surfshark for sponsoring this video, and with that, let's begin with the producer lawsuit and why it's so embarrassing. On March 8, it was widely reported that producer Karen McCarthy had sued Lucasfilm over egregious termination from the Disney Plus series The Acolyte, the brainchild of Harvey Weinstein protege Leslie Headland. As we've covered before, it's a derivative of the High Republic Publishing Initiative, which Kathleen Kennedy pushed through without any Disney higher-ups asking for it or even signing off on it. So that's strike one against the series right there. Even so, Karen McCarthy was recruited for it. She claims there was an agreement over the basic terms and that she declined a competing offer which would have made her the highest paid producer ever on Apple's streaming platform. But just as she was getting ready to relocate to London for The Acolyte, and already having done a couple of weeks' worth of work on it, the offer was rescinded. At this point, Apple had already moved on with another candidate, so in choosing to go with Lucasfilm over Apple, McCarthy had lost out on both multi-million-dollar opportunities. Disney, then paying her $5,000 for her trouble, fell into the insult rather than consolation territory, and so she sued. So what's the big deal? Well, the big deal is that this never happens. Or, to be clear, there are frequent disagreements like these, but they are solved in arbitration behind the scenes, without the public at large ever knowing. This, by contrast, is an official and public lawsuit, and that almost never happens. The last time was when Scarlett Johansson sued the Chapek administration over the Black Widow release, but as we covered at the time, that was a hit job on Bob Chapek, and quickly resolved. This is worse, because it sends the signal loud and clear throughout Hollywood that Lucasfilm as an employer is not to be trusted. Hollywood producers have now learned what we on the outside already knew, but which Carrie McCarthy had to find out the hard way. If you have two competing offers, and one of them is for Lucasfilm, then don't be fooled by the glamour of working on Star Wars or with Kathleen Kennedy. Take the other one. It doesn't matter what it is, it's safer than working for Lucasfilm. Now, chances are Lucasfilm will make an undisclosed settlement with McCarthy, because they do not want this to go to Discovery, where Lucasfilm's dirty laundry would be made public. But even so, the signal to Hollywood was loud and clear. In addition to actors, writers, and fans, Lucasfilm now has a track record of screwing over high-profile producers, so other in-demand producers will be wary of Lucasfilm going forward. Someone else wary is Lucasfilm's preferred audience. On March 15th, Deadline Hollywood broke the exclusive scoop that Lucasfilm's high-profile Willow series has been cancelled after just one season. This is embarrassing, because unlike other series from both Marvel and Lucasfilm, which were only ever meant to be single-season ordeals, Willow was intended for a multi-season run, only to be cut short. That means they failed, and so badly that the cost of another season simply can't be justified. So, under Kathleen Kennedy's watch, Lucasfilm have not only ruined Star Wars, they've ruined Willow too. But it gets worse. Lucasfilm never announced that Willow had been cancelled. On the contrary, they wanted it to quietly sink into oblivion, never to be brought up again. But in a rare act of journalism, Deadline Hollywood broke that scoop against Lucasfilm's wishes. I guess stuff like that can happen when they consistently use Vanity Fair for their paid puff pieces. The challenge for Disney and Lucasfilm here is that in the name of DEI, they've spent years creating divisive content which excludes not just their own built-in audience, but the majority audience from their programming. In the case of Willow, like so many other things, it was tailored for the LGBTQIA+ audience. As a result, news of the cancellation was shrugged off by the general audience, but met with an uproar among Lucasfilm's apparent target audience, which went on to describe them in the most unvirtuous of terms in social media. For a company that places such emphasis on inclusion, that is a very embarrassing outcome, and this could be what made showrunner John Kasdan release a lengthy statement on Twitter. I won't read the whole thing here, see the clip from the live stream coverage of it over on Live Archives for that. But I'll just summarize the spin he put on the situation, which is that the series has not been cancelled. They just released everyone from their contracts so they can look for other jobs instead.
I want you to get out of this office right now.
I'm sorry, Zed.
No way.
You brought
no
it on
way.
Zed, I got your voucher.
Out!
They also have ideas for Season 2, so maybe they'll get around to making one at some unspecified point in the future. Maybe. Though with Bob Iger being forced to cut billions from the Disney Plus content creation pot, and no demand from the general audience for more, I would not hold my breath. And the embarrassment doesn't end there. The sequel trilogy was such a creative failure that it ended Star Wars as a theatrical brand, to the point that 4 years later, Lucasfilm don't even know what the next Star Wars movie will be or when it will come out. Courtesy of Variety, we know what it won't be though, and that is Patty Jenkins' previously announced Rogue Squadron, which we already knew was toast anyway. It also won't be that movie from Kevin Feige, which we up until now only suspected was toast, and it won't be the movie from Taika Waititi either, which most likely is also toast. As we covered before, the movie Disney and Lucasfilm had the most hopes for was the one to be written by Damon Lindelof. Of course, as we also covered, we the audience have no hope for a Damon Lindelof-penned Star Wars, but they do because they're out of touch. But their hope for that may be in vain. In an exclusive interview with /Film, published March 15th, Lindelof expressed doubt about going through with the project. He told the publication, "I will just say that for reasons that I can't get into this morning, on this day, the degree of difficulty is extremely, extremely, extremely high. If it can't be great, it shouldn't exist." That's all I'll say, because I have the same association with it as you do, which is it's the first movie I saw sitting in my dad's lap, 4 years old, May of '77. I think it's possible that sometimes when you hold something in such high reverence and esteem, you start to get in the kitchen and you just go, maybe I shouldn't be cooking, maybe I should just be eating. We'll just leave it at that point. To me, that sounds like right now, Lindelof and the powers that be at Lucasfilm are at an impasse over which direction to take. We covered what Disney and Lucasfilm wanted in the previous video, but that may not be what Lindelof wants. If there is such an impasse, that could be the first step towards this project, like all the others, falling apart. And that may very well be for the better. Unless it's overseen by Jon Favreau, I am honestly hoping for pretty much everything they have in development right now to implode and never see the light of day. The reason for that is simply that Lucasfilm under Kennedy, and in turn under Iger's Disney, have proven themselves to be incapable of managing Star Wars, or for that matter Willow. Time will tell on Indiana Jones. Favreau's The Mandalorian was a fluke, and right now, that fluke is the only chance Star Wars has of any kind of ongoing relevancy, so by all means, let everything else crumble. I'd rather the people behind the scenes who are attached to the sequel trilogy not begin anything new, until they can be completely replaced by someone who has no ties to the sequel trilogy. Only then does Star Wars truly have a chance to move forward. What say you? What are your thoughts on all of this? Let me know in the comments, and before you go, remember that to help protect your data and bypass quarrelsome geo-blocking restrictions, you should get Surfshark VPN. Use our code MIDNIGHT to get 83% off, plus 3 extra months for free. Link is in the description.